Hello everyone, welcome back to Talk Fluent. We're so happy you're here with us today. If you're learning English and you want to sound more natural in everyday conversations, you've come to the right place. Every episode, we take something that seems confusing and turn it into something simple, practical, and easy to remember. Today's lesson is one that almost every English learner struggles with, no matter their level.
Hey everyone, it's great to have you with us again. I have to admit, today's topic fooled me when I first started paying attention to how native speakers actually talk. The words put, place, and lay all seem like they mean the same thing. They all involve moving something somewhere, right? So why do native speakers choose one word instead of another?
That's exactly what we're going to figure out today. The good news is that these words aren't nearly as complicated as they seem. Once you understand the simple differences, you'll hear them everywhere, in movies, TV shows, podcasts, and everyday conversations. Even better, you'll start using them naturally yourself.
By the end of this episode, you'll know when to use put, when place sounds better, and when lay is the correct choice. We'll also show you the mistakes that learners make all the time, and we'll practice together with real-life examples that Americans actually use every day.
We're not going to teach you complicated grammar rules that you'll forget tomorrow. Instead, we're going to focus on real English, the kind of English you hear at work, at school, at the grocery store, at home, or while chatting with friends. That's what Talk Fluent is all about.
Before we jump in, we have a question for you. Which word confuses you the most? Put, place, or lay, or maybe all three? Let us know in the comments because we'd love to hear from you. Chances are, if you're confused, thousands of other learners are too.
And if you're enjoying these lessons and want to improve your English every week, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Talk Fluent, and share it with a friend who's learning English too. Your support really helps us create more lessons like this.
All right, let's get started with the easiest word first, because once you understand it, the other two become much easier.
Let's begin with the verb put. This is one of the most common verbs in English, and honestly, it's usually the safest choice in everyday conversation. When native speakers talk casually, they use put far more often than place.
A simple formula can help you remember it. Subject plus put plus object plus place. For example, I put my phone on the table. She put her keys in her bag. We put the groceries in the kitchen. Notice something. You're moving an object to a location. That's all put really means in most situations.
Exactly. Think about your own daily routine. You wake up and put your feet on the floor, you put on your clothes, you put your coffee mug on the counter, you put your backpack by the door. You're probably using the word dozens of times every day without even realizing it.
Here's another tip. Put doesn't sound fancy, it sounds natural. That's why Americans use it constantly in everyday speech. Instead of saying, please place your backpack over there, a friend is much more likely to say, just put your backpack over there.
That's a great comparison. It shows that grammar isn't the only thing that matters. The feeling of the word matters too. Put is relaxed, casual, and friendly. Place is often a little more careful or formal, and we'll talk about that later.
Let's practice together. Imagine you're walking into your house after work. Where would you naturally put your keys? Maybe you put them on a small table near the door. Where do you put your shoes? Maybe you put them in the closet. Where do you put your phone before going to bed? Say your answers out loud. Speaking is one of the fastest ways to build confidence.
Here's another challenge for everyone listening. Write one sentence in the comments using put. Keep it simple if you want, something like, I put my laptop on my desk every morning. We'd love to read your examples, and you might even inspire another learner with your sentence.
Don't worry about making it perfect. The goal is to practice. Every sentence you write helps train your brain to think in English instead of translating from your first language.
One thing that makes put so useful is that it works in almost every everyday situation. Whether you're talking about your phone, your shoes, your coffee, or even your ideas, put feels natural. Native speakers don't stop to think about it, they just use it.
That's true. Let's look at a few more examples you'll probably hear in daily life. I put my wallet in my pocket. Can you put the milk back in the fridge? He put his laptop on the desk. They put the kids in the car. All of these follow the same simple pattern. Someone moves something to a place.
Now here's a question for you. If you're watching this while sitting at a table, what's on that table? Maybe a phone, a notebook, or a cup of coffee? Imagine picking one of those things up and moving it somewhere else. Which sentence would you say? I put my notebook in my backpack. I put my phone next to my computer. Go ahead and say one of your own sentences out loud.
Nice. Speaking out loud is much more powerful than just reading silently. It helps your mouth get used to English, and that's exactly how fluency grows.
Now let's talk about something learners often ask. Can you use put in negative sentences? Absolutely, it's very easy. I didn't put my keys on the table. She doesn't put sugar in her coffee. We don't put our shoes on the bed. The structure is simple. Subject plus don't or doesn't plus put plus object plus place. Or for the past, subject plus didn't plus put plus object plus place.
Here's a quick challenge. I'll say a positive sentence and you change it into a negative one. I put my jacket on the chair. How would you make it negative? That's right. I didn't put my jacket on the chair. Let's try another. They put the dishes in the sink. Now make it negative. They didn't put the dishes in the sink. Great job if you got those right.
Questions are just as easy. Did you put your phone in your bag? Where did you put my glasses? Why did you put the boxes outside? Notice that after did, the verb stays as put. It doesn't become putted. In fact, put is one of those interesting verbs where the present, past, and past participle are all the same.
That's definitely good news because it's one less verb you have to memorize. You can simply remember, today I put it here. Yesterday I put it there. I've already put it away. Same word every time.
Here's another important point. Sometimes learners overuse place because they think it sounds more advanced, but in casual American English, using put usually sounds more natural. Imagine you're talking to your roommate. Can you put these dishes in the dishwasher? That sounds friendly and relaxed. If you said, can you place these dishes in the dishwasher? People would understand you, but it might sound unusually formal for a simple conversation at home.
Exactly, there's nothing wrong with place. It's just about matching the situation. At home, with friends, or in everyday conversations, put is usually the word people choose.
Let's make this personal. Think about your morning routine. What are 3 things you put somewhere every day? Maybe you put your toothbrush back in the holder. Maybe you put your breakfast on the table. Maybe you put your backpack by the door before leaving. Try saying all 3 sentences out loud.
And don't stop there. We'd love to hear your answers. Write 1 or 2 of your own put sentences in the comments. Reading your examples is one of our favorite parts because we get to see learners from all over the world practicing together.
Before we move on, here's a quick memory trick. Whenever you're simply moving something from one place to another in everyday conversation, ask yourself one question. Am I just moving an object? If the answer is yes, put is probably the right choice.
That's a fantastic rule to remember. Keep it simple, don't overthink it, and you'll sound much more natural. Now that you've mastered the everyday use of put, we're ready to compare it with another word that often confuses learners. Place. Once you see the difference, choosing between them becomes much easier.
Now let's talk about the word place. At first, it might seem almost identical to put, because both verbs involve moving something to a location. The difference isn't really about grammar, it's about style and the situation you're in.
Exactly. If you're chatting with friends, you're much more likely to hear someone say, put your bag over there. But if you're reading instructions, listening to a flight attendant, or hearing an announcement, you'll often hear the word place.
Think about some common examples. Please place your phone in silent mode. Place the document on my desk. Carefully place the vase on the shelf. Please place your tray in the return area. These all sound polite, careful, or a little more formal.
Here's an easy way to remember it. If put is the word you use with friends, place is the word you often see in instructions, workplaces, hotels, airports, restaurants, or official announcements. That doesn't mean you can't use place in conversation. You absolutely can, it just creates a different feeling.
Imagine you're helping your little nephew build a tower with blocks. You might naturally say, put the blue block on top. Now imagine you're giving instructions during an art class. You might say, please place the blue block in the center of the table. Both sentences are correct. The situation changes the word choice.
Here's another comparison. A friend says, put your jacket here. A hotel employee might say, please place your luggage beside the door. Same basic action, different tone.
Native speakers make these choices without thinking about grammar rules. They're simply matching their language to the situation. That's something you'll start doing naturally with practice.
Let's look at another pair. Put your signature here. Please place your signature in the box below. The second sentence sounds like something you'd read on an official form or legal document.
That's why context matters so much. If you're filling out paperwork, following written instructions, or speaking in a professional setting, place often feels like the better choice. But if you're talking to your family at dinner, saying, please place the salt next to my plate might sound a little too formal. Most people would simply say, can you put the salt next to my plate?
Here's a fun challenge. I'll describe a situation and you decide whether put or place sounds more natural. You're talking to your best friend, your backpack on the couch. Hopefully you said put. Now imagine you're reading the instructions for setting up a new coffee machine. The water tank into the machine. This time, place sounds perfectly natural because it's part of written instructions.
Great job, you're already beginning to notice the difference in tone instead of just memorizing definitions. Here's another helpful tip. First, use put in everyday conversations. Second, use place when you want to sound a little more careful, professional, or polite. Third, listen to native speakers. Pay attention to when they switch between these two verbs. You'll start recognizing patterns much faster than you expect.
I love that advice because listening is such a powerful teacher. Watch a cooking show, a travel vlog, or even a product review. You'll hear both words, but you'll also notice that the speaker chooses the one that fits the situation.
Let's do one more quick practice together. Which sentence sounds more natural between close friends? Place your phone on the table, or put your phone on the table. The second one is what you'll hear most of the time. Now imagine you're reading the instructions that come with an expensive camera. Put the battery into the compartment, or place the battery into the compartment. This time, place often sounds smoother because instruction manuals usually use more formal language.
Here's your practice task for today. Write 2 sentences in the comments. Use put in the first sentence as if you're talking to a friend. Then use place in the second sentence as if you're writing instructions or speaking professionally. It's a great way to train your brain to hear the difference.
Remember, becoming fluent isn't about using the most difficult words. It's about choosing the word that feels natural for the moment. Sometimes the simplest word is exactly the right one.
So here's the quick review before we move on. Put is your everyday casual choice. Place is often more formal, more careful, or more common in instructions and professional settings. Keep those ideas in mind because our next word, lay, follows a completely different pattern, and once you understand it, you'll stop mixing up all 3 verbs.
All right, it's time to talk about the word that causes the most confusion for many English learners. Lay. The good news is that once you understand one simple idea, this word becomes much easier to use.
That's right, unlike put and place, which can be used in many different situations, lay usually focuses on putting something down in a flat position. That's the key idea you should remember.
Think about a book on a table. If you move the book and put it down so it's resting flat on the table, you can say, I laid the book on the table. Notice that the object is lying flat after the action.
Here are a few common examples. She laid the blanket on the bed. He laid the newspaper on the kitchen table. They laid the map on the floor. We laid the towels on the beach. In every example, something is being placed down flat.
Now here's where learners sometimes get confused. In casual conversation, many native speakers simply use put instead of lay. For example, I put the blanket on the bed. I laid the blanket on the bed. Both sentences can be understood, but lay specifically emphasizes the flat position of the blanket.
Exactly, that's why you'll often hear put much more frequently in everyday conversation. It's simpler and works in many situations. But understanding lay helps you sound more precise when you need to be.
Let's imagine a real-life situation. You're setting up a picnic in the park. What's the first thing you do? You lay a blanket on the grass, then you put your bag on the blanket, then you place the food containers in the center. See how all 3 verbs can appear in the same situation?
That's a fantastic example. The blanket is laid flat. The bag is simply put somewhere. The food containers might be carefully placed. Each verb has its own little job.
Here's another situation. Imagine you're wrapping a gift. First, you lay the wrapping paper on the table, then you put the gift in the middle. Finally, you carefully place a ribbon on top. The actions are slightly different, so the verbs change too.
One thing learners often ask is, do I need to use lay every time something is flat? The answer is no. You can usually use put in everyday speech and people will understand you perfectly. However, knowing lay gives you more options and helps you understand native speakers better.
That's an important point. Fluency isn't about replacing every simple word with a more specific one. It's about understanding the choices available to you. Sometimes put is the best choice. Sometimes place sounds better. And sometimes lay describes the action more accurately.
Let's do a quick practice activity. Imagine you're preparing a table for dinner. You take a tablecloth and spread it across the table. Which verb sounds best? Lay the tablecloth on the table. That's right, now imagine you're moving a fork. Would you normally say lay or put? Most people would simply say, put the fork next to the plate.
Great job, you're beginning to see that context is everything. Now let's talk about sounding natural. If you're speaking casually with friends, don't worry about using lay all the time. Native speakers often choose the simpler option. For example, I put my jacket on the bed. Even though the jacket ends up flat, put still sounds completely natural.
That's why listening to real conversations is so helpful. Textbooks sometimes make it seem like there's only one correct choice, but real English is often more flexible.
Here's another tip for sounding polite and natural. When giving instructions, place often sounds professional. When talking casually, put usually sounds friendly. When describing something being positioned flat, lay can add extra detail. Thinking about the situation helps you choose the right word without memorizing long grammar rules.
Let's try a mini practice together. I'll describe a situation and you choose the best verb. You're putting a yoga mat flat on the floor before exercising. A very natural choice is lay. I laid the yoga mat on the floor. Next situation. You're telling your friend where to leave their backpack. Put your backpack by the door. And one more, you're giving instructions during a presentation. Please place your completed forms in the collection box.
Excellent. If you got those right, you're already making progress. Now here's a challenge for everyone listening. Create one sentence with put, one with place, and one with lay. Say them out loud first and then write them in the comments. This is one of the fastest ways to make these verbs feel natural in your own English.
And remember, don't be afraid to make mistakes. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is communication. Every time you practice, your confidence grows and choosing the right verb becomes easier.
We've now looked at the everyday use of put, the more formal and careful use of place, and the flat position meaning of lay. Understanding these differences will help your English sound more natural and more precise.
Exactly. Put is usually casual and flexible. Place is often more formal or professional, and lay emphasizes putting something down flat. Keep those three ideas in mind because next we're going to look at the most common mistakes learners make with these verbs and how to avoid them.
Before we move on to our practice activities, let's spend some time talking about the mistakes that almost every English learner makes with these three verbs. Honestly, we've made some of these mistakes ourselves, especially when we were paying close attention to grammar instead of focusing on how people actually speak.
Absolutely, and here's something important to remember. Making mistakes doesn't mean you're a bad English speaker. It means you're learning. Every fluent speaker has made thousands of mistakes along the way. The goal is to notice them, understand why they happen, and keep improving.
Let's start with the first common mistake, using place in every situation because it sounds more advanced. For example, someone might say, I always place my phone in my pocket. Is it wrong? No. Does it sound natural in everyday American English? Not really. Most native speakers would simply say, I always put my phone in my pocket.
Exactly, here's another comparison. More natural, I put my groceries in the car. Less natural for a casual conversation, I placed my groceries in the car. Both are grammatically correct, but the first one sounds much more like everyday speech.
Why does this happen? Many learners believe that longer or more formal words automatically sound better, but native speakers usually prefer the simplest word that fits the situation. That's one of the secrets to sounding natural.
Here's your first practice challenge. Which sentence would you probably hear between two friends? A. Please place your backpack on the sofa. B. Put your backpack on the sofa. If you chose B, you're thinking like a native speaker.
Great job. Now let's look at mistake number 2, forgetting that lay usually describes putting something down in a flat position. Imagine someone says, I laid my backpack by the door. Could a native speaker understand it? Sure. But since the backpack isn't being described as something carefully positioned flat, most people would simply say, I put my backpack by the door.
On the other hand, if you're talking about a blanket, a towel, or a map, lay often feels much more natural. I laid the blanket on the grass. She laid the map on the table. Those examples emphasize spreading or positioning something flat.
Here's mistake number 3, and this one can be confusing. Some learners try to replace every put with lay because they think it sounds more fluent. But remember, using a more specific verb isn't always better. If you're just talking naturally with friends or family, put is usually the safest and most common choice.
That's a great point. Fluency isn't about using difficult vocabulary. It's about choosing words that fit the moment. Think about these examples. I put my jacket on the chair. I put my keys on the counter. I put my headphones in my backpack. Those all sound completely natural.
Now let's have a little fun with mistake number 4. Imagine you're helping your friend move into a new apartment. You proudly say, I carefully placed my dirty socks on the floor. Technically, the sentence is correct. But it also sounds hilarious because carefully placed makes your socks sound like a priceless museum exhibit. Most people would laugh and simply say, I put my socks on the floor.
That's one reason learning natural English is so much fun. Sometimes the grammar is correct, but the word choice creates a completely different feeling.
Let's do another quick practice. I'll read 2 sentences. You decide which one sounds more natural. Number 1, I put the pizza box on the kitchen counter. Or, I placed the pizza box on the kitchen counter. Most Americans would probably choose the first sentence during a casual conversation.
Number 2, you're reading instructions for setting up a new television. Place the television on a stable surface. Or put the television on a stable surface. Both work, but instruction manuals often choose place because it sounds careful and professional.
Here's something we'd love you to try. Think about 3 objects around you right now. Maybe it's your phone, your water bottle, and your notebook. Create 3 different sentences using today's verbs where they make sense. Then share your favorite sentence in the comments. It's a simple exercise, but it really helps these words become part of your everyday English.
And remember, don't let mistakes stop you from speaking. Every conversation is another chance to improve. Native speakers care much more about understanding you than about whether you chose put or place in every single sentence. Confidence grows through practice, not perfection, and you're already much closer to sounding natural than you were at the beginning of today's lesson.
Now it's time for one of our favorite parts of every lesson. Let's practice together. We're going to play a simple game called Choose the Correct Sentence. Don't worry if you're not sure about every answer. Just listen, think for a moment, and then say your choice out loud before we explain it.
That's the best way to learn. Don't just think the answer in your head. Actually say it. The more you speak, the more natural these verbs will become in real conversations.
Here's situation number 1. You're talking to your brother before leaving the house. Option A, please place your shoes by the door. Option B, please put your shoes by the door. Which one sounds more natural?
The best answer is option B, please put your shoes by the door. When you're talking with family or friends, put is almost always the natural choice. Place isn't wrong, but it sounds much more formal than the situation requires.
Great, let's try another one. Situation number 2, you're reading the instructions for setting up a new printer. Option A, put the printer on a flat surface. Option B, place the printer on a flat surface. What's your choice?
This time, option B sounds better. Place the printer on a flat surface. Instruction manuals, product guides, and official documents often use place because it sounds more careful and professional.
Here's situation number 3, you're getting ready for a picnic in the park. Option A, lay the blanket on the grass. Option B, place the blanket on the grass. Think about it for a second.
Option A is the better choice. Lay the blanket on the grass. The blanket is being spread out flat, so lay describes the action perfectly. Of course, many people would still say, put the blanket on the grass in casual conversation, but lay is the most precise verb here.
Let's make it a little more challenging. Situation number 4, you're helping a coworker organize some files. Option A, please place these folders on my desk. Option B, please put these folders on my desk. Which sounds more appropriate?
Honestly, both are correct. If you're speaking casually to a coworker, put sounds friendly and natural. If you're speaking during a meeting or giving more professional instructions, place sounds slightly more polished. That's an important lesson. Sometimes English gives you more than one good answer. The situation and your tone help you decide.
Exactly, English isn't always about finding one perfect word. It's about choosing the word that fits the conversation. Now here's situation number 5. You're talking to a friend who's looking for their sunglasses. Option A, where did you put your sunglasses? Option B, where did you place your sunglasses?
Option A is definitely what you'll hear most often. Where did you put your sunglasses? It's simple, relaxed, and exactly how native speakers usually talk.
Fantastic work. If you answered most of those correctly, you're making real progress. Now let's practice changing the tone. Imagine you're speaking to your best friend. You'd probably say, put your jacket over here. Now imagine you're making an announcement at a conference. You might say, please place your personal belongings under your seat. Same basic action, but a different audience changes your word choice.
That's one of the biggest secrets to sounding natural. Native speakers don't just choose words based on grammar. They also think about the situation, the people they're talking to, and the feeling they want to create.
Here's your final challenge for today. Create 3 original sentences, 1 using put, 1 using place, and 1 using lay. Say each sentence out loud first, then write your favorite one in the comments. We'd love to see how you're using today's lesson in your own English.
Remember, don't worry if your sentences aren't perfect. Real conversations aren't about perfection, they're about connecting with people. The more you practice speaking, the more confident you'll become, and before long, choosing between put, place, and lay will feel completely natural.
You've done an amazing job practicing with us today. Every example, every sentence, and every challenge brings you one step closer to speaking English with confidence. Keep listening, keep speaking, and most importantly, keep enjoying the learning process.
In just a moment, we'll wrap everything up with a quick review of today's lesson, and leave you with a simple strategy you can use every single day to make these verbs feel natural in real conversations.
We've covered a lot today, so let's bring everything together with a quick and simple review. If you remember just 3 main ideas from this lesson, you'll already sound much more natural in everyday English conversations.
Here's the first idea. Use put for most everyday situations. If you're moving something from one place to another, put is usually the best choice. I put my keys on the table. She put her phone in her bag. They put the groceries in the kitchen. Simple, natural, and exactly how native speakers usually talk.
The second idea is to use place when the situation is more formal, professional, or when you're giving careful instructions. For example, please place your passport on the counter. Place the package near the front door. Please place your completed form in the collection box. These sentences sound polite and appropriate in formal settings.
And here's the third idea. Use lay when you're talking about putting something down in a flat position. Lay the blanket on the grass. She laid the book on the table. They laid the towels by the pool. Even if you hear people use put in these situations, you'll now understand why lay is sometimes the more precise choice.
One thing we really hope you take away from today's lesson is that fluency isn't about memorizing hundreds of complicated grammar rules. It's about noticing how native speakers actually communicate and then practicing those patterns until they become natural.
Exactly, don't be afraid to keep your English simple. Native speakers do it all the time. In fact, choosing the simple, natural word is often better than choosing the most formal one.
Here's something we'd love you to do after this episode. For the rest of today, pay attention every time you move an object. Maybe you put your phone on your desk, place a document on a coworker's table, or lay a towel on your bed. Say the sentence in English even if you're by yourself. Those little moments of practice really add up.
And here's a fun challenge. Watch an English movie, TV show, or YouTube video this week. Listen carefully for these 3 verbs. Every time you hear put, place, or lay, pause for a second and ask yourself why that particular word was used. You'll start noticing patterns that you never saw before.
We'd also love to hear from you. Tell us in the comments which verb was the hardest for you before today's lesson. Was it put, place, or lay? And after listening to this episode, which one makes the most sense now? Reading your comments helps us create lessons that answer the questions you're asking.
If this episode helped you feel more confident, share it with another English learner. Learning together makes the journey more enjoyable, and you never know who might need exactly this explanation today.
Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Talk Fluent, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. Every week, we bring you practical English lessons, real conversations, and tips that help you sound more like a native speaker in everyday life.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. We know learning a language takes patience, practice, and consistency, and we're honored to be part of your English journey. Keep speaking, keep making mistakes, keep learning from them, and most importantly, keep believing in yourself.
Remember, every conversation you have is another opportunity to improve. Don't wait until your English feels perfect before you speak. Start using what you've learned today, one sentence at a time. Little by little, those small steps will turn into real confidence.
We hope you enjoyed today's lesson on put, place, and lay. Keep practicing these verbs in your daily life and you'll be surprised at how quickly they become second nature. Take care, keep learning, and as always, see you next time.